I'm Andy. I'm the prop chef here at Two Perspective Studio. Today I'm going to do a video on how to use our PropChef Fake Pretzel kit. Your kit will come with 8 ounces of Model Magic clay and a package of this Fake Pretzel salt. This is a coarse white salt, perfect for making fake pretzels. You can make the pretzels small, large, extra large, whatever you like, and depending on the size is how many pretzels you will get out of the 8-ounce package. If you make them about this size, which is what I did for this demonstration purpose, you'll probably get 5 or 6 of this size. This is about 4 inches wide. Nice little soft pretzel. This is used for home staging, food photography, restaurant props, regular food props for display, not for child purposes like for elementary school age kids who have fake kitchens and that. This is not appropriate for that. This is for adult use, for restaurant use, for prop use, for theater, and so forth. So I'm going to put this up aside. Now when you open your clay, the first thing that you're going to want to do is condition it. It will be hard. You'll have to stretch it and pull it, just sort of like you're kneading bread. You're going to want to give this a lot of attention, at least between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on how cold it is in your area and on your surface. I use a tile surface here because really nothing sticks to it. So I am able to press my clay just like I'm kneading bread. I'll press my clay against the surface and smush it and fold it. Press the air out of it while you're going along. Now what you want to achieve is not that. You see how that ripped off of there? That means that my clay is not conditioned enough for me to start using it. So you want to keep going until it's nice and warm, very pliable, and sort of like a taffy pull when you go to stretch it out. That's when you know your clay won't crack. When you dry it, this is an air dry clay. You do not put this in the oven. You can put it in the sunshine, but it's definitely not necessary. It will harden up very well in about 24 hours just on its own. Depending on the thickness, it may take 48 to 72 even if you make things very thick. But any thinner pieces of clay, like the pretzel that we're going to make, it doesn't take a long time for the clay to dry out. Now you see I'm stretching this and it's not snapping, it's more like taffy. That's about what you want to get to for Model Magic when you're using it. So after you've conditioned your clay sufficiently, what you want to do is sort of mold your lump of clay here, your 8-ounce lump. You want to divide this in equal pieces. If you're going to use the whole thing for pretzels, divide it in equal pieces. Using a food style scale will help you measure out exact portions to make everything even. If you're doing this as a if you're a prop maker and this is your job, you'll definitely want your pretzels to be pretty even. The best way to cut these, I've found, is just with a scissor. Now I'm not going to use a scale for these. I'm just going to sort of section off a few pieces of my clay. I'll do it like that, and then I'll cut off a couple of pieces. Now anything that you're not using right away, you will want to put in an airtight container or a Ziploc bag. It'll keep it from drying out. So I have 2 pieces out here. Again, I'm going to press them against my surface, just expelling as much air out of there as I can, because if you have trapped air in your clay, that can also lead to cracking when it's drying. And that's the worst thing when you get cracked clay after you've worked so hard to make a piece. So I'm going to start rolling out a snake, and I want it to be a little less than an inch thick when I get it totally rolled out. Now, depending on how big your pretzel is how big you want, or how long you want your snake to be. You can go as much as 22 or 24 inches if you want to mimic one like the mall sells the giant pretzels, or stadiums sell them. Those, when you're starting off with a rope like this, you're going to want to get about 24 inches to make one that large. We are not going to do that big for sure. This is actually this one is fairly large. This is going to make a larger one than I did already. You're going to want to make a U shape or an upside down U shape, depending on how you like to do this. You want to cross your pieces over, and then you want to cross them over again. So you want to double crisscross there, and you'll have a circle up at the top. Kind of looks like a little stick figure without any arms. Then you're going to bring your knot piece up. I actually made my hole too small. Let me start over. I'm going to roll this out again. Okay. You want to crisscross, crisscross again, and then bring this up, stretch out your pretzel a little bit on the bottom, and press these like you would make that. So there is the pretzel shape. And I'll show you that again with this piece. You just want to roll it out. When you're rolling, try and use the palm of your hand. If you use your fingers, you'll end up making indentations in your clay. So try and use the flat heel of your palm to roll with. Or you can use a non-stick, like a acrylic piece, and you can roll with an acrylic piece. They make rectangles and squares that don't stick to this Model Magic. Makes it a little easier to roll sometimes. And you'll get very even pieces doing it that way. With your palm, you run the risk of a little bit wonkiness. So start with your U shape, cross it over again, and then when you bring it up, let me pull this down so you can see it. Make your circle. When you bring it up, you're going to bring the whole knot up and bring it over. Stretch down your pieces on the bottom, because this isn't dough, so it doesn't react like dough. Dough will slip and slide and stretch the way that you want it. But because this is clay, we're going to have to manipulate this a little bit to do what we want it to do. So we want to stretch down slightly on the bottom and stretch slightly on the top to get that unique pretzel shape that we want. So these are about the same size as the one that I did at the beginning of the video that I showed you already painted. So once you get these done, you're going to need a piece of parchment paper, like I put under here. You don't have to use parchment paper. You can certainly use any, let me put that back up there. You can use any surface that you have that these will not stick to. You can use wax paper for sure. Paper plates will work. Sometimes I'll use a paper plate and put my paint colors on it. So whatever you have is what you can use for sure. I'm going to grab a piece of parchment paper to put mine on. And I'll just bring my pretzels up on that. Now, I have a paintbrush here. I have some water. I have some wash water and some rinse water, which having 2 pots of water is always a good idea when you're painting things. One pot will be exclusively to wash the brush. Then once you get all the paint out of it, go ahead and give it a rinse in the clean water just to make sure that you've gotten everything out of it so that you don't transition your colors inadvertently. I'm also going to slip a glove on just so that I don't get too messy. Now I'm going to start with a light brown paint color. This is a raw sienna. This is a Amsterdam. I believe this comes from Michael's craft stores. Sort of like a, theirs is a little more on the yellow side than the regular raw sienna. So you could actually use a color called yellow ochre if you can't find this. Or a little yellow paint with a little bit of light brown paint mixed into it is just fine. Now what this is going to do is provide a base color for your pretzel. It's a nice brown baked color. Now I did forget to mention that you should allow these to dry completely overnight at least before you paint them. Because they will not be pliable anymore. These guys that I'm painting right now are very soft. It's a lot harder to paint and they're going to get misshapen, so I'm going to have to reshape them after I do this. This is just for demonstration purposes, so make sure that you leave yours out to dry and then go back the next day and paint them. Now, like I said, this is just the base color that you'll put on here, and you can paint one side and then you can flip it over and paint the other side. If you're using a craft paint, like the folk art or the Americana, you can use, let's see, the color, they have a lot of lighter brown colors, and you can mix a little bit of yellow in with them, a little bit of orange sometimes will do, anything to make a nice baked color. So that's basically the base color for the pretzel. Now I paint mine in a variety, or not a variety, I paint mine in layers. I'll paint one color, I'll let it dry, and then I'll go over it with a slightly darker color to shade it and look more baked. So the next color I would put on there is it's a reddish tone. Grab that out of here. This is a burnt sienna. This is a Master's Touch. This one is from Hobby Lobby. Burnt sienna is a professional color, so you can find this from lots of different manufacturers. It is a, it is a reddish color. That's this one on the plate here. So it's more of a reddish brown. I'm just going to take a little bit of that and add just a little bit of water. I'm going to go over this with this reddish color. So I'm kind of building up my colors as I go. See how that changed that to look a little bit more baked? Now if you started just on the white with this reddish color, you'd get a totally different result. It's really best to build up your colors. I know it seems like a lot more work, but it's worth it in the end if you want to achieve that realism. If you have an airbrush painter that you typically use for props, that works as well. And I'm sure that if you're using an airbrush, you're already doing a buildup of colors layer by layer. I try to do swirly, pouncy motions with this brush. This is a very soft brush that I'm using. It is a flat brush. I use the softest ones that I can find so that I don't leave brush strokes on my items, because that definitely takes away from the realism factor. So there we have step 2. That adds the red. It makes it look just a little bit more baked. Then the third color, well, third and fourth, I guess, I sort of mix together. It's a darker brown that I make. It is a combination of a raw umber, and this is the Liquitex Raw Sienna. This is a different brown than the one that we started with. These are both the same name paints, but you can see the drastic difference in the color. This one is more like a yellow ochre. This one is really more like a true raw sienna. So you kind of have to be careful of different paints to make sure that you're achieving the correct color that you want. Now I'll take that very dark brown and stamp some of it down, and then I'll take that lighter raw sienna and stamp on top of it. And I'll get that color that I'm looking for, which is sort of a, I'm going to take a lot of this off on my paper towel. I know you're saying, why are you wiping it off? You just got it on there. Because I just want to put this in the raised areas that I know my pretzel is going to get more color when it bakes. You have to kind of pretend like these are real baked items. Just pretend like you put this in the oven and you have to think about what it's going to look like when it comes out. And you know, it's just like pies or cakes or cookies. Any raised area on the surface of whatever you're baking is going to get darker than the lower areas. The hills get more color than the valleys, in other words. So once you have the shading done, you have something more like this, which is a nice looking pretzel. Very baked looking. Then when you get to that point, you can pull out your salt mixture from your pouch. I have some in my little container here. And you can sprinkle a little bit, however much you want, on your pretzel. It could be lightly salted or heavily salted, whichever you prefer. And you'll sprinkle some on there. And then I would let that dry before you put on your final coat, which is a sealant layer. You need to make sure that you seal this very well so that your pretzel salt doesn't come off, that it's on there very nicely. I'm going to kind of gently pick this up. It will stick to the paint as the paint is drying. But that's basically all you have to do to make this realistic pretzel piece. And like I said, you can make this size, which is about 4 inches by 3 inches, I guess. To make this size, you can probably make at least 6 with the pretzel kit, with the 8 ounces of the Model Magic. The salt in here is enough probably to make 20 pretzels at least. So if you happen to buy more Model Magic and you want to make more of these, you'll have plenty of salt to continue on with your project. So the last step to this is finishing it off with a sealant. You can use a spray sealant. Mod Podge makes a spray sealant. Make sure that this is dry for a couple of days before you do this. Mod Podge makes a good spray sealant. You can also use a Mod Podge. I would recommend the gloss for a pretzel, but the Mod Podge that you just put on with a brush is totally fine. This is the matte one, but I definitely would use the gloss for this project. Or like I said, you can definitely use any kind of sealer for that. I was looking for my varnish and I don't see it. Oh, there it is. This is a varnish. Liquitex Basics makes this. This is a gloss varnish. I use this on top of a lot of things that I seal, and I can definitely recommend this one. I know my paint is still wet, so I'm just going to, like I said, make sure that yours is dry. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. But I would gloss this up with this varnish, just being careful of my salt, not to knock it off. It should be pretty stuck on there when your paint is dry. That's basically all you have to do. Let this top part dry and then flip it over and do the other side. You can do it as many coats as you want to seal it, however you feel like it looks best. But that's a basic tutorial on how to use this. It's very simple. It doesn't take a lot of materials. You get the clay, you get the salt. This is the tutorial on how to roll it and how to paint it. The painting just requires a little bit of brown shades of paint. So it's really takes just a few minutes to create these, and then you'll have your dry time and you'll have some pretzels that you can display. So if you have any questions, you can let me know through a message under this video, or you can message me at thepropchef.com for sure, or on the Two Perspectives site. This is Andy, the Prop Chef, and I am hoping that you liked this video, hoping that it was informative. Like I said, let me know if you have any other questions. Bye for now.